Today we start seeing the most interesting part, how to experience the speed in our playing. How does it feel like to actually play fast? Now we can explore this topic because before, I don't know about you, but in my experience, I could never play fast, right? I couldn't control the evenness of rhythm and sound. My fingers wouldn't move fast because my muscles would just get all locked in a seconds. So I was told in my school, Emma, you have to play fast, to start playing fast. And I was still afraid to play fast because intuitively I knew I can't. So now I know that we can. And that's why it's very, it's gonna be very delicious to see how you can do that. And before we start, there are some important notes that we should remember when we face this speed in our playing. So first questions is, why do we choose piano dynamics in playing all the technique exercises?
Piano dynamics let you to keep your fingers on the surface of the keyboard, not to raise them too high, and play lighter to provide better speed, better dexterity of fingers.
I think it's with piano dynamics, it's less about how high we lift the fingers and more about how deep we actually go in the key. And so with forte, usually, especially if you play grand piano, you know, you really have to penetrate very deep, where it takes time. So in piano, we don't have to go that deep. So that creates a slighter touch and it saves us time. So it's to start experiencing how it feels like to play fast, that's the best option for us to choose right now. What you said about lifting fingers high, I don't think it necessarily we should connect it to dynamics. It's just generally when we need to play faster, we need to keep our fingertips closer to the surface of the key. Okay, just to clarify here. What can you tell me about a comfort zone?
When you start playing faster than usual, you definitely go out of your comfort zone, and you need to face it with bravery and keep going, keep doing. Expect that this will happen,
Exactly.
But don't be frightened by it.
Mm-hmm. So the emphasis here is on expectations. In my past, I had a student, and again I could relate to that. When I asked him to play faster, the first time he tries, actually I had two students, they had the same. Well, anyway, so the first time they tried, they go like, oh, okay, sorry. And I was like, no, sorry. That's supposed to be like this. You have to have this expectation that in the first maybe 10, 20 times, okay, maybe 10 times, you will feel uncomfortable and you will think that it's too soon for you to start playing fast. But no, it's not too soon. It's just not enough. So you will experience very uncomfortable sensation, and you should befriend it. So don't be afraid to go on. Just know, okay, a few more times. That's how it's supposed to be. All right. What about the directions, generally, in all the technique exercises? Scales, arpeggios, octaves, and chords. So there is ascending motion and there is descending motion.
There is an interesting notice that when we go to the left, so when we play descending passages, it is kind of difficult here to play, to maintain the quality. And when I tried by myself preparing to this lesson, I definitely experienced it, that my hands go started to play not together, fall apart, and yes, play to the left is difficult here. I don't know, maybe for Arabic countries it may be easier. Do you have experience
No,
with Arabian students?
have not taught anyone from there. But yes, for me it definitely feels more pixelated when I go to the left, because our sight, because we read from left to right, it has been trained to move more smoothly. And to the left it's like you have to push it. And so hands harder to control. So the next question is a little bit more, physical. So what are those simple tips that again can help us to feel more stable and safe and secure when we're playing faster tempos? So we have a few tips for our fingertips, for our muscles in our arm and body.
As for fingertips, we can use fresh figs or orange juice and put our fingertips into it to make them more sticky, and that will provide better grip with the keyboard. Drinking, I see the reaction. Okay, and I remember that I had a question about drinking. You wrote in your book, I'm very curious about it, slightly salted water. Why salted?
Drink salt water to replace lost sodium. While electrolytes generally help the body function, sodium is especially important for muscle and nerve functions. It plays an integral role in ensuring muscles contract and relax. Obviously, sodium is present in salted water. Helps regulate fluid balance and is required for muscle and nerve function. If we just drink lost water without sodium that preserves electrolytes, which are important for our muscle and nervous system function, then we might actually more harm ourselves than help. And obviously I usually put a very little salt because it doesn't have to taste like ocean or seawater, So that's a bit of torture. Alright, so drinking water, why do we need it? First of all, we already mentioned that using orange juice makes our skin a little bit more sticky because, especially in winter, with all this, central heating, we feel slippery and not secure on the keyboard because the skin gets too dry. So obviously drinking water reduces the dryness of the skin in the first place. But what I experience is that, can you recall the feeling when you had this kind of numb and kind of slippery sensation in your fingertips? Or after lots of practicing with nice sweat and you just feel like you got it all. It's so active, it's so energetic, and it just feels so juicy, So that's the difference, that's the result that water gives me again the next day.
I understood now completely. Now I have this image. Yes, when your hands are cold, are dry, and you cannot feel the feedback from your practice. Thank you. Now I clear it all.
Okay.
All right.
So second tip, drinking salted water, and the third tip?
And the third tip, cutting nails. Cutting nails. I was a little late for our lesson for 1 minute because I just I just was doing it.
I love this excuse. This is like one of the excuses that I love to hear. Well done. Again, so we discussed it in the very first lesson, right? How it works.
Apart from the obvious that with long manicure you cannot play on the keyboard. Yeah, but this is obvious. But there is some obscure tip that this again about blood. Yeah, about this sensation of the tip of the fingers.
Very simple. Take your finger with your nail cut short and just do this like you would do when you press through the key. And you can see that the edge of the nail is actually presses against this fingertip. And that brings the blood, and so fingertips feels again much more full and energetic and warmed up in a way. Where if you have a longer nail, then when you press, the edge of the nail doesn't go into the fingertip. And just on a side note, when I used to play in conservatory, I go to the keyboard and it's all kind of spotted in blood, in our dorm repetitoriums in the basement, very cold and dark and just smelly. Anyway, great memories. But sometimes I had to clean, and many people that I knew struggle with. So what also happens, combination of the dry skin practice and not properly folded. Is it how you say it when you fold the nail? The edges, you have to really fold the edges of the nail, because if they are not in the smooth shape like this, but rather have a little sharp edges, then those sharp edges will have contact with fingertip, but in a negative way. It will start creating the erosion of the skin and break it, and you will have those cracks on the sides of your fingertip. So just make sure that you really file, I think it's a file, you really file those edges on the nail. It's important. I used to suffer with this, and then you just put all these creams and you put a bandage on your fingertips. And, it's horrible. So watch out for that. That's like already personal tip. Alright, so what can we do to help our muscles to benefit our playing in fast tempos?
There's start to be a real demand for stuff like doing sports and muscle training exercises.
The way you say it, your expression on your face says it all. Okay. All right, but again, there is a high purpose to it, so it makes it all more interesting. So we have this routine, right, that I suggest, weightlifting, in other words. Weightlifting.
Yeah.
What does weightlifting do? What does it actually train?
Interestingly enough, it actually helps you to find the difference between tension and relaxed state.
So it teaches our muscles how to fully relax. Because the reason we accumulate tension is because we don't drop it, right? We don't release it. And of course we're talking about in our system how through intonation, arm rate and phrasing, graduation of energy through the whole piece, we naturally teach our muscles to do that, to breathe. But again, the better our muscles know how to really exert, flex, and really fully relax, like not 10% this and 10% that, 100 and 100, the better our stamina will be. And another, again, personal tip, so my experience, a story from my life. When in 2013 I felt I recovered from my focal dystonia, and I started my channel and YouTube channel. And the first thing I tried was those, scales, arpeggios, octaves, and chords. Done, great. What's the next step? How about the first Etude by Chopin? After not playing for years and not actually being able to even do anything with my hands. And I nailed it. And I also did it, I think, within just a few weeks. But there were moments where I definitely felt being challenged. And this is where I started exercising. That was my inspiration. I started exercising my muscle and see what's going to happen. And day by day, I felt just less and less tiring to play this etude. I just felt that instead of my muscles being like in this state during performance, they were more like in that state, and there was space to breathe. So the strength of the muscles were actually helping to keep my muscles in a kind of like a chill and relaxed state, chilling state. And then the next one was etude number 4 as well, which I was also very grateful for. Achieving it was my personal triumph. What about your abdomen? But again, yes, as you said correctly, having strength in our core helps to release the necessity of holding strength in our hands, to keep stable while playing. So again, it will benefit to feel more relaxed in our hands. All right, let's talk about the third reminder. When you are going to practice in real fast tempos, there are also, I think, 2-3 tips what to do while practicing these technique exercises in between repetitions to avoid basically any injury.
Making pauses and complete exhale 5 times. Let your hands hang down, and this helps not only relax your hand muscles, but as well it refreshes your mind and let yourself be fully prepared to keep all the task and focus better on all the tasks. And I can say that when I practiced speeding up, I didn't. Well, of course I didn't master it because I started from, the day before yesterday, and but I really found that when you play faster, and if something doesn't goes right, you need immediately try again. And this immediacy is playing bad joke with you, because you think that you will be able to change everything with this second repetition, but now it again falls apart. Okay, let's try again. It's like in gambling, and that's why you need to say, "Oh no, stop! I need to stop, pause, and refresh everything, start again." This is discipline for your mind.
So with exhalation, you really also need to feel how you exhale this kind of accumulated tension in your hands. And in case if your mind was wandering, it's a nice reminder for yourself. Okay, come back, switch back, focus again on all the tasks. Only when we are on the stage of playing by 8 sentences or the whole routine in the final tempo. Maybe second to final tempo. Yes, you don't really need it when you play just by sentences or playing in medium tempos. It's all for fast tempos. So what about other exercises that you don't have to do that frequent?
When you feel heavy sensations in hands, like maybe they are a little fatigue, you can try an exercise called windmill. For example, I need to windmill my right hand. I take my left hand and lean to the left knee. Yes. And now I start gently, with inertia, I start doing circles with my hand. And if you do it proper, you may even feel some tingling sensation in your fingers. And not necessary, but it may be because muscles can be stiff, and these inertia exercises help to them naturally release tension.
Okay, so one thing from what you showed me, you can make it a little bit faster. You can obviously make it in a very gentle and careful way, not to injure your shoulder. And you can do, the faster you go, I guess the faster you will kind of refresh the blood in your arms, and so this mucus that actually causes this fatigue in our hand, this kind of white liquid, when we train our muscles, that mucus will be dissolved with the stream of our blood. So this one is good to do maybe after 2 or 3 repetitions when we play the whole routine in fast tempo. And you definitely feel difference. Before that, like you said, you might feel like, okay, nothing, I cannot control anything. And then, like 1 minute after you've done this windmill, you come back and everything just how it's supposed to be. Very good exercise. Again, it's not my invention. One of my classmates showed it to me when I was at school. But it's just general tips about playing. So first of all, let's recall, is keep our fingers very kind of, I would say weak, even, like using that word weak, but very passive on the keyboard, very loose. Don't lift the fingers too high. Let them rest on the key surface. Move elbow where it's necessary in a light and fast and great amplitude way. Phrasing is very important, especially when we go descending way. So I'm always making sure that the first phrase is always less and the second phrase is more, because that's in that first last phrase, this is the time where we're actually gonna drop the tension in our hands. Just generally to remind yourself to, as we mentioned before, to always keep your sight on the same line on the keyboard over there. Okay.
About a little more about elbow motion and this adjustment to faster tempos, because when I practiced in faster tempo, I really cannot tell that my elbows are somehow objectively moving. I cannot say that they are do something though, like this.
I know your question, so this leads to actually what we're going to talk in a moment about. Again, how does elbow motion feel like in fast tempo? And it feels more like an impulse. And even when I say adjust and make our, big amplitude and faster elbow motion, it actually, we're talking more about your inner sensations. And you will see in the preparation for a new speed, we will have to mentally play it with this kinesthetic sensation in our hand. So just make sure that the new tempo, when we listen to a new metronome, we actually feel those impulses over here on the top of our elbow. And it is important to just make sure that you really feel it in the right moment, and you really make it with as fast and big as you can. And for the fast, I said as you can, it's because of course in a fast tempo there's no space to make it too big. But it's an inner sensation. It's inside you, how you feel it. So just make sure that it's there in your inner sensations.
So when you play, to sum up, when you play in faster tempo, keep your focus on the kinesthetic sensation of in movements inside, movements of your elbows. Not to do artificial, because when you write do this as wide as possible, as big as possible, a little bit it triggers artificial those
no, you will not have time to do this in fast tempo, because the big movement means more distance means more time. But what is important is that you feel this impulse. It's a good question.
I guess it also helps to organize scales, because the so those points of pillars of the scale.
Okay.
The movements of the torso, should they be
I was about to. I know exactly what you're about to say, because I was
when
just
I play that
smoothly, no?
Smoothly, yeah.
Exactly. And while editing video for last lesson, I realized I forgot to mention it, that yes, of course, just like in elbow, when we are moving it on just circle notes in slow tempo, when we're playing in the fast tempo, it looks more like motion of the brush, right? So it definitely feels much more smoothly, mostly like a one line. But with the same way is with torso. In the beginning, yes, it's a little pixelated. Okay, I'm moving here, now I'm moving there, I'm holding it there. As soon as I reach that middle C, I'm moving it to the left. But eventually, when you're gonna play faster, again, your torso will be moving. But what is important is that you don't miss the impulse when you need to switch it to the new direction. Because the whole idea is that, of course, even when we play, elbow will be moving. It's not about 100% not moving elbow here. It's mostly about 100% knowing that you actually need to move elbow there. You know, so it's organizing the moments where you shouldn't miss those impulses in your elbow. So it's the same here. Your torso will be moving, but just make sure that it's really switching to the right way it needs to be switched. Because you can move and then you can kind of like move a little bit, but you really want to do this fully and then this to the left. The thing is that when I move my torso right quickly and stay already there, in a way, just like with elbow, my torso prepares just like when we move elbow first, and that prepares the rest of the hand already to play there, is the same here on a bigger scale. We moved our torso to prepare our arms to play already there. Where if you kind of go together, then I definitely feel less stable. Like this, I don't know. Versus this, when I'm already there and I already created the space where I feel good about both hands, in fact. Because what usually happens if you don't move like this right away and just play there, if you just follow this, you kind of feel a bit strange about your right hand, you know? You feel like you need to compensate this unbalanced feeling with holding tension in your hand, where, you know, versus this, you just sit and this is your pull, this is where you play. Where if you don't do that and you just still kind of here and your hands are kind of there, you have to balance. Yeah, that creates tension. Yu Wang is very good at this. You know that she plays all across the keyboard, right? Especially with modern pieces. And you can really see her, like, you know, fully switching, you know, pum and playing here, and then fully quickly switching and pum and playing there, rather than kind of like, she really works very good with her upper body. You can see that to support, to create that security and stability with her body. So for each exercise, scales, arpeggios, octaves, and chords, how many days we're gonna have, and what we're gonna do in those days.
So for each exercise we have 2 days, day 1 and day 2. So simple math, for exercise 2 days equals 8 days. So for each exercise, on the first day we are playing for 1 sentence at a time, and we process it through 5 timings.
And it's also important to also check it when you practice that your timing 1 or your timing 2 never changes throughout your practice days. That you make sure that you really practice in the same tempo. So you, on the first day, you take each sentence and you repeat in different timings. Sometimes it could be from 1 to 5, sometimes it could be only from 1 to 2, like in octaves, I believe. And you repeat in each timing till you feel absolutely comfortable in your mind, firstly, and in your body. Like, tell me what we do in day 2 in every exercise.
In day 2, we gradually widen the chunk of the music we play. So first we play 2 sentences at a time, going to final timing number 5 for 2 sentences, then do it again for 4th sentence and for 8th sentence, and that's all. And then you play the whole thing.
So because we are going to day 2, knowing that if each of our Lego parts is fully done, we feel comfortable. So now the purpose of day 2 is not really to suffer and struggle to bring those chunks to fast tempo. Now it's about to simply structure and build everything till we get the full whole routine where we can play it in the final tempo. So correct, 2 sentences, practices in all tempos, but again, this will be easier. That's why day 2 is not just now we practice every 2 sentences. In day 2, if you make day 1 correctly, you will be able to go through all the timings with each 2 sentences, then with each 4, with each 8, and then the whole routine. Because you will see how much easier it is, so you will not you won't have to spend so much time. So day 1 is about to really reach the point where you can feel you can play fast, even if it's small blocks. Day 2 is all about just taking those blocks and now building and structuring and making the whole routine out of them. So it's actually day 2 sounds more fun, no?
And what if I won't feel comfortable till during that first day?
But it's important that you brought up this question, because another thing that we need to learn when we practice in fast tempos is how to transform the moment where something is off and we're just going as a crab in the shell and thinking, oh my god, this is too soon to play fast, I cannot play fast, I'm not ready. That's the phrase, I'm not ready. And stop playing fast, because we don't know what happened and how to fix it. And again, should we just continue playing lottery and maybe next time we will win something and it will go right? That's a horrible place to be. So how to transform that horror into simply observing and knowing in your power, so what is the problem? There's a list of very common errors, and all you need to do is identify what's wrong exactly, where, and then see what is the medicine for it, what you should improve to solve that problem. And so you do that and you play again, and most probably you will feel good, okay? So that's also, like I said, it's an important skill to learn how to be your own doctor. And we will talk about this much more when we're gonna approach a new piece. Because again, the whole idea of teaching is how not to be dependent on me, and how as a pianist become your own healer, right? And for that you need to know what's the problem, what you need to take to solve the problem, right?
Okay, what comes to my mind, I will say it. Flying fingers. I like it, expression. Flying fingers. It is state when you play fast, but some of the notes are missing, you press the notes that not supposed to be there, so wrong notes, and you generally feel unstable on the keyboard.
You're flying away.
Yeah. Simply
Right.
saying that, yeah, you're flying away from the keyboard. By the way, for me, that's especially on arpeggios. I don't know why. So, the solution. You can play warm-up exercises, and
All right.
and
So you can play slow, and you can play slow, forte, and legato. Right? The reason why you're flying away is because you stop pressing the key deep enough. You're too light, in a way. So when you're gonna practice and bring a little bit of meat and go in and penetrate a little bit deeper with your warm-up exercises, whether it's forte legato slow or forte staccato slow, this will balance the sensation. Mm-hmm.
And one more tip: not to fly off, not to fly off the keyboard. You need to stick to it. So use the orange juice or fresh fig to make your fingers sticky. Flying fingers. Next, wooden fingers. Wooden fingers is the sensation when you cannot move your fingers with ease and dexterity. You feel like they're wooden. So you feel fatigue in hands, you feel that they're tired, and you cannot play fast.
Slow. You just feel they're slow.
They're slow and you cannot play fast. And the solution for that is relaxation, relax, exhale, and do windmill exercise to rotate your arm to bring the life in it.
Because you see, the reason is because you started accumulating this toxic mucus muscles when they play and work too hard for too long. So right exhale and feeling this relaxation in your muscles and make a windmill exercise. Good.
Interestingly, if we play with relaxed hands, with so at ease, why hands can be in that state of tiredness?
So I just have this vision in my mind. So again, when you exercise your muscles so well, like we mentioned before, what happens is that when, for example, you play for a long time, you play, so you flex, you relax, you flex, you relax, you flex, you relax. It's good. If your muscles are not strong enough, what happens is this. You flex, you relax, you flex, you relax, you flex, you relax, you flex. So you really have to make sure that it's not your muscles relax just 10%, but really as much as they can. And this creates stamina. So yeah, I could also put with wooden fingers, if you experience that after playing for a long time, non-stop and fast tempo, it's a good reminder to keep our muscles strong.
So, flying fingers, wooden fingers, missed note. For example, we play passage and we miss the note, silent note, or play the wrong note. So it maybe relate to flying fingers.
This is, by the way, very common when you're gonna start playing a piece. That's the most common, actually. You miss the note. So what do we do?
Yes. Missing note is the signal of missing, that something is missed in your intonation, internal singing, in your imagery. So you need to slow down, go to that point of the text of the passage and intonate with musical speech towards the missing note.
We will come back to this. This is the most common medicine that you're going to use when practicing, especially virtuoso pieces. And yeah, I kept saying it in so many parts that it let me learn campanella in 3 days. Because I knew exactly what to do. If I miss the note, I will never miss it again, ever, in that same part. So the antidote here is to understand that you missed the note because you did not internalize the distance, the exact distance towards this note. And as we know, what helps us to feel the distance between the notes even more, we know there's intonation, playing with resistance, singing with resistance internally. But when we also assign to it this emotional quality of the interval, whether it's third or fourth or fifth, we talk about in the musical speech lesson, number, blah, 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 that helps to navigate and pre-feel the distance towards the note in a much more clear and accurate way. As a result, as we know where mind goes, body follows, we will not miss the note. And usually you have to also look at the elbow motion, because it's not only inner sensations that are in the way, but also not a very maybe precise movement of elbow. And sometimes you might find that in fast tempo you're losing the amplitude and speed of your elbow motion. That's why it is important to keep in mind to constantly adjust the speed and amplitude according to the new tempo. So together, improving the elbow motion and improving musical speech in your intonation will almost guarantee that you have that interval under your control when you play. All right, what else?
What else? Missed note, wooden fingers, flying fingers.
What about stiffness in hands, just generally? When you feel everything is a little bit... Yeah, there's no flow.
Yeah. So stiffness may be caused by not enough light sensation in your touch. So play lighter, improve your phrasing to build the economy of energy, to distribute it well, to start lighter, to lead towards more static energy and then circulate it. So provide your muscles with the breathing. And
good, that's what I was looking for. So this rigidity comes from being dead, not really breathing, right? This is when our body gets rigid. So for breathing, we know that the best medicine is to make phrasing, and what is important is actually the less important part, which we intonate lighter, and as a result it will be reflected in our touch. So our touch will get lighter on those less prominent parts and phrases in our exercises when we play. So yes, if we have the stiffness, improve phrasing, that will in turn lighten your touch. All right.
If everything falls apart, just stand up and go.
All right.
Forward.
Come back tomorrow. Come back tomorrow
back.
if everything falls apart.
Yeah.
And that's actually answers the question that you asked me in the beginning. What if in my first day, practicing every sentence in all different tempos, even when I try to use my medicine to solve my problems, doesn't help. So you might just need another day. What might happen, and maybe I should write why come back tomorrow, is because you need that night. Because you've got so much in your mind that it's so dense that you don't have space. And to have that space, you need that night sleep, whereas again we learned in the first lesson, every goes to subconscious, and our conscious mind gets a little bit more space, it gets unloaded. And that gives also sensation again. It will be reflected in our physical sensations, so we will feel a little bit lighter as well and easier the next day. I know I didn't write it in the book, and I know this is so obvious, but I have to say that because I've seen that happening, because again we had that habit in the past. If we're practicing something in fast tempo, let's say we practice we need to practice today sentence number 1 and sentence number 2. If you cannot play sentence number 1 and the timing 5 and your final tempo feeling good, don't move to sentence number 2. And definitely don't move to day 2 where you start practicing 2 sentences together, thinking that, well, I wasn't able to play sentence number 1 in the right tempo, but maybe if I play 2 sentences together, it might work out, you know? We have it, but we have it, no? And that's how we also approach, you know, also any technical problems in the piece. When we struggle and we take that bar and we practice it, still cannot make it, and then we play the whole piece in the fast tempo, hoping that it's gonna work out. So that's another important skill of your discipline, training your patience, not moving to the second sentence. without fully finishing the previous one. Another one that comes to my mind also happens many times with my students in the past. Let's say you need to bring the sentence to timing 5 before you're moving to the next sentence, but you only bring to timing 4, and then you move to the next sentence. Also, you cannot do this. Again, the reason could be I'm not ready in my mind for timing 5. Maybe if I practice all other sentences and I come back to day 2 and I started practicing by 2 sentences, maybe again I will be able to do it in timing 5 because I will be ready. Again, this is also delusional. And this is a recipe for disaster and frustration and self-doubting and being very, very upset with yourself. So make sure every sentence is really brought to the final tempo and you really feel comfortable in your mind and body before you're moving to the next sentence. Thank God. And that's what we actually learn in this whole system, that playing is not gambling and hope anymore. You have to pray God before going to performing. Okay, you can if you want, but the purpose could be different, not to save you from disaster, but maybe just amplify your performance, How do we prepare ourselves when we move to the next timing? So let's say you played 10-20 times in timing 1, right? Now you need to move to timing 2 to repeat another maybe 10-20 times, or maybe 50, or maybe 100 till you feel comfortable. So what do we do between when we switch to a new timing? It is important to know 2 things. One thing is that you listen to the metronome, remind yourself the right tempo, so you're always practicing the same tempo. And when you play, you don't play with metronome, right? So you stop it, okay? Now, when you listen, again, before playing, you, in your mind, you kind of play it together. It does include, of course, the image, the form, the timing, the self-confidence and posture. I don't know, true voice is up to you. I'm not sure it's really required here. It's already many things. And when you play, you really feel kinesthetically those impulses in your elbow. Because of course in timing 1 you can do that, but what about in timing 5? When you need to play scale. And so you have to prepare your mind to catch those circle notes with impulses in your elbow without even playing. That's a very important part. So when you play in your mind, you go into the set of things you need to focus on, but when you play, you really feel those impulses of your elbow and as well torso, because remember every 2 octaves, let's say in scales, we need to move right or left, and that will really prepare your body to play.